Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I'm going to talk about the Gung-Ho Collab that has just come back to North America. So, as a bit of a preface, the Gung-Ho Collab is an IP that is owned by Gung-Ho, which means we can safely assume it's going to return on a regular basis. This also means that the concept of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, should be at an all-time low, simply because this event will come back multiple times in a given year, which means let's say you didn't have enough stones or money to IAP this time around, it's going to come back in several months' time frame, and you'll have another opportunity to do so once again. With that being said, the Gung-Ho Collab has way too many cards in it, and despite the fact that it has so many cards, only a few of them are truly meaningful and valuable, and those cards are orb skins. We've come to the point where basically this collab is just a giant orb skin fiasco, because other cards have some value, but nowhere near that much value that's worth monster exchanging for, and the cards that you actually want to have are only orb skin, which is great if you have the funds available to purchase them, because you are able to directly grab a card that you want to have that is meaningful. But at the same time, if you don't have the disposable income to do so, it's going to be kind of sad, because you may not necessarily want to roll in this event because a lot of the cards are underwhelming, or you don't want to roll because you've rolled many times in the past. This event has come back many times over many different years, so for a lot of older players, they've already collected the stuff, and usually at that point you want to just monster exchange, but we can't do so already. With that being said, I'm going to try and highlight and point out the more notable cards that I think are worth mentioning. I'm not going to go over every single card because there are just way too many things in here in total. I do have a video that you could watch. Wow, it's like me within me. But you can watch the video about talking about an overview of all the buffed existing cards. So basically all the cards that already existed in their various buffs. Not all the cards I talked about did receive buffs, because certain cards just failed to receive a buff. Regardless of all that, let us jump right into the pros and cons of this event. So, there's a 22.7% chance to require any 7-star card. That's actually a pretty high chance for a top rarity. Like, for 6 magic stones, that's actually pretty high overall. And there are lots of valuable orb skins. Like, basically, if you have either amazing luck or you have the funds to do so, you can directly purchase some of the most powerful and valuable cards in the game. On the flip side of that, the best cards in this event are orb skin only. And that is obviously problematic, because you're not going to be able to roll them unless you roll heavily and get quite lucky. And the non-orb skin cards, by comparison, are just falling further and further behind. I think Gung-Ho has probably realized that Belial was most likely possibly their best seller. I'm just trying to think of an orb skin card that had the biggest impact, and I feel like Belial was just the one that had the most impact overall, because it does so much for various teams. And I feel like because Gung-Ho sees that this sells well, they're starting to introduce more and more strong cards that are just orb skins, so you just can't actually acquire stuff anymore through the monster exchange system. In addition to that, this is an older event, which means if you rolled many times in the past, there's less motivation to roll nowadays because, well, you already have those cards. And as I already mentioned before, this event really just feels like an IAP event for Belial and Crusader. If you have the means to get those cards, it's definitely worthwhile to do so. At the same time, many of these cards have aged poorly. They, especially the bottom rarity, they just didn't receive much love overall, and they were already lacking love to begin with, so they're in like a loveless place right now. And then, as I mentioned, the bottom rarity is quite horrible, and it does comprise 43.8% of the rolling pool. So, 22.7% chance for any of the 7 stars. And due to the fact that this event is split over part 1 and part 2, I've tried to keep them separate for like the rolling roster overall, so you can kind of see, like, in week 1 you'll always have these cards available and these 7 stars will be available, and then the following week or rotation you'll have these cards always available still, and then this set as well. Same applies to the other series. So if you are interested in rolling, it's in your best interest to try and line up the rolling roster that you feel provides the most value for your given monster box. But in all honesty, I don't feel like this is a good event to actually roll in. If anything, like I said, just IAP or just kind of skip and ignore, because we know Draconic Orchestra is coming. We know Player's Choice Godfest should be here soon. Don't know when, but soon. And we also have a strong inclination that Christmas rare machine may come on time because some seasonals do actually arrive at the same time, at their respective timing. It's kind of weird if Christmas came in March or something like that. Point of the matter is, we know there are other events coming up, and at the same time, I don't feel like it's worth rolling in because there are so many cards in here for one, but at the same time, the bottom rarity is what's comprising 44% of the rolling pool, and I don't think any of the cards are truly meaningful. I'd roll them and be like, okay, that was kind of like 6 magic stones down the drain. Not much use for them overall. So there is value at the top, but the thing is, Belial and Crusader are both orb skins. Lakshmi is an orb skin as well. Like, it's orb skin galore at the top. Knight is only good if you don't have Varroa, so like that is at least a monster exchangeable card, but I'll talk about them momentarily. So, first things first is Gung-Ho Belial, and Gung-Ho Belial has, to a certain extent, changed the game quite a bit, because she is the best non-transforming cleric that is universally meaningful. If we look at her awakening, she has 5 enhanced heart orbs along with a large RCV stat. That means she can single-handedly provide all the healing your team needs. Even if your team has only 1 times RCV, she will heal more than enough to cover it. And in fact, utilizing Belial on a team opens up the door to using negative RCV weapon assists, like say Akintor's weapon, which does a myriad of beneficial things while having negative RCV, and as long as that's not inherited on your Belial, which it's not going to be, you have more than enough healing to actually sustain yourself. Pretty big deal overall there. She also has super poison resist, so yay. And you can have either 4 skill boosts or 2 skill boosts with a 10 combo. And she didn't receive any buffs this time around, but I don't see why she cannot have this bind immunity condensed into a better awakening and then just giving her something else of value. If they give her a bit of personal damage or more skill boosts or even a skill bind resist, there's a lot of room for improvement. If we look at her active skill, it's a 5-turn cooldown that gives you the ability to reset your health to 1, which is valuable for UG teams who have difficulty possibly transforming. It's an instant guarantee you transform. You also clear all unmatchable, all bind, and all awoken binds on this 5-turn cooldown, which is amazingly short. And even though you do cut your health to 1, as long as you had at least 4 heart orbs, you can pretty much always heal back up to full health with very little effort. So, incredible healing solution, amazing full cleric, super poison resist, lots of skill boost potentially, and she can inherit a delay, haste, or whatever you need to have at the beginning of the dungeon because her cooldown is so low. She's going to solve multiple different things for you, and in fact, Gung-Ho Belial can be used across other teams even if she's off typing. The reason for that is because her health stat is okay, her attack stat is irrelevant, she's never doing damage anyways, and her color coverage can help for, like, say, Shura 3, and in all honesty, it's just a great cleric to have basically on any given team. In theory, you can put Gung-Ho Belial as a cleric on virtually any team, and it still works. It may not be the number one best choice necessarily, like blue teams would usually prefer Blue Albrich, but the thing is, Blue Albrich doesn't fit on multiple teams, but Gung-Ho Belial fits on every single team potentially. So, if you are someone who has the means to do so, I strongly recommend you pick up Gung-Ho Belial. And as a disclaimer, I do not receive any compensation, nor love, or support from Gung-Ho whatsoever, so if I tell you it's worth it, it means I truly think it's worth it, not because Gung-Ho has given me some sort of zest or love to tell you it's worth it. It's just a high value card overall. In terms of drawbacks, it's an orb skin card, so again, you can't monster exchange. There's no skill bind resist, which can be problematic for, like, say, your Yuji Mojito team, for instance, because Yuji lacks skill bind resist. Halloween Chakyo lacks skill bind resist. You throw Belial on team, you have lots of issues with no skill bind resist, so you need to find some sort of solution for that aspect there. And she also has no personal damage, which may or may not be a problem based on the dungeon you're playing through. Having one card not do any damage can be a bit of a drawback, but at the same time, most cases, it's not going to be that bad of a deal, and the fact that she provides so much other value greatly offsets her possible downside. For her dark form, she has 3 attack while below 50% and a 10 combo super awakening, so large personal damage multiplier with a large attack set, so she will be double capping with relative ease, and even her sub-attribute, because it's also a dark attribute, will also be possibly providing meaningful damage. And at this point in time, she is a wonderful farming leader. Her active skill cuts your health by 50%, gives you negative 1 second of movement time to overwrite movement time debuffs, and creates 3 Dark Orbs at random. So with 2 Gung-Ho Belials, you guarantee to have +6 Dark Orbs every single turn, and the fact that it's a 1-turn cooldown means you can inherit something over top of it more easily just to get yourself going for whatever dungeon you're playing through. And then when you use them as a leader, they have a huge attack multiplier. It's 24 times attack multiplier when you're below half health. Definitely easy to do. All you need to do is connect 6 Dark Orbs, and when you do so, you get bonus combos. So dual Gung-Ho Belials give you +4 combos, so you just need to match 6 combos in total, with one of them being a Dark Row. You get your bonus combo, so you get the 10 combo trigger to trigger all your damage. You also have massive damage because you can stack rows and everyone benefits from it. And in fact, Gung-Ho Belial is actually one of the stronger TA3 farming leaders available. It's not the best like Saline Kitty, which is more mindless. You have to still combo a bit, but at the same time, it's incredibly powerful. And if you did not have any value for her cleric form, which I'd be kind of surprised, or you had a second copy of her, you would definitely want to pursue her dark form, because it is still a great training arena farming card, and it's just going to give more value for her duplicate. Even her weapon assist is reasonable, but at the same time, I wouldn't pursue her weapon assist over her dark form or her cleric-based form. Next is Crusader or Paladin. Her name changes when she transforms, so don't be surprised if people refer to her by different names. But regardless of that, Crusader in her pre-transform state has 2 skill boosts and a 22-turn cooldown to transform, so an okay amount of skill boost there. Her active skill when you do transform gives you 2 turns of 75% damage reduction. That 75% damage reduction can possibly be 2 effective skill boosts, because you might be able to stall safely with those 2 turns. Maybe, maybe not, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. And once you do transform, she becomes quite a powerhouse. You have double 10 combo with a large attack set, so she'll easily damage cap, but you can't double cap because it's a transforming card, but still, 1 damage cap is nice. She also has 2 enhanced light combos, which will give you more damage for your entire team. Always helpful. Lots of movement time, nice. Skill bind resist, sweet. And then 1 dark resist. This is kind of a weird outlier awakening. I feel like this will be changed possibly in the future. Who knows? It just seems a little weak. It's the only kind of weak awakening I can see. And then for her active skill, it cuts your own health by 50%, which lowers the cooldown for what it does. It gives you a full board unlock, which is useful because if your board gets locked, you can unlock it, and then you can use other orb changers in conjunction. And then you get 1 turn of void, damage void. That is invaluable because she has no way to deal with damage voids, and in fact, this is probably going to have value on Daytona teams. Daytona teams have the inability to deal with damage voids. They often rely on Halloween Cottons. This is a great alternative to Halloween Cotton. And if you are interested in covering all attributes for, say, Shura 3, Paladin does provide you with a water sub-attribute. So Cotton's dark, Paladin's blue. All you need is a green and red card to fill out the all-attribute requirements. So pretty cool stuff overall, I feel, for the most part. I do like the idea of using Paladin as a sub for Daytona teams. I don't have a Daytona, so obviously I can't attest to how great it's going to be. And as a leader, like, it looks nice on paper in terms of like the multipliers, but the problem is you have to match a heart cross. And you don't have auto follow-up attack, and her active skill doesn't generate hearts. So you're going to have a tough time potentially sustaining yourself unless you have a way to systemly make heart orbs every turn. I don't think that's really going to be that feasible. It's more so the fact that she functions as a powerful sub for mono light teams. But if this form feels like it has no value for yourself, her weapon assist is one of the most valuable cards in the game. And the reason for that is because it gives you a single skill boost, 2 team health awakenings, and a HP awakening. So, bulk. Bulk is valuable. In current endgame content, everything hits so hard. MD2, everything hits like an absolute monster truck. In Valkyrie Seal Descender or Sanctuary of the Gods, everything hits terribly hard as well. So having this extra bulk and a skill boost is meaningful in itself. But if we look at the active skill, oh, goodness gracious me, it's amazing. It gives you a 7-turn cooldown for 8 turns of 35% damage reduction. That means if you inherit this on top of a 1 cooldown card, you have permanent 35% damage reduction. This is like a Halloween Chakul on any 1 cooldown card, because we know Halloween Chakul has become incredibly valuable because of this looping shield. Looping Shield works here. And in fact, even if you put it on a 2-turn cooldown card, you have nearly 100% uptime. You're so close. There's 1 turn you don't have the shield. If you can play around that, you're going to be perfectly safe. So the reason why this is helpful is because, like I said, in Sanctuary of the Gods, in MD2, everything hits so hard, and being able to sustain and tank hits with greater ease means, well, you're not dying, and if you're not dying, there's a good chance you possibly can clear and overcome the floors and keep progressing in the dungeon. As a whole, this weapon assist has tremendous value if you're pushing through the newest, hardest content right now, but at the same time, if you're at, like, say, Shura 1 or World of Carnage 1 and below, this weapon assist will have no true meaningful value because you don't need the damage reduction for those types of content. Even Shura 2, you don't need it either. So it's only when you're pushing up, like, say, Shura 3 and above, I feel you might truly need this damage reduction. Maybe Alt MD1 if you're also not playing with as much on-typing cards. But point of the matter is, an incredible weapon assist along with a valuable card. No wonder she's an Orb Skin card and Gung-Ho wants you to purchase her. Next is Lakshmi, and Lakshmi I feel like is actually quite strong, but she is overshadowed by the other orb skins. And if you had only finite funds to purchase something, I feel like you'd be better off purchasing Belial and Crusader. Lakshmi would probably be the next best orb skin you could purchase if you had the means to do so. But Lakshmi is still a strong mono fire sub because she has double 10 combo and a huge attack stat. She's going to double cap with relative ease basically on any given team as long as you hit 10 combos. She has 4 enhanced fire orbs, so nice passive damage there. She has potentially 4 skill boosts or 2 with a super jam resist, so useful awakenings in that aspect there. And her active skill gives you 7 turns of 30% damage reduction. It also gives you a board unlock and changes wood to fire. The board unlock and orb changing is probably not going to be that meaningful, but 30% shield on a 9-turn cooldown is meaningful. It's not enough to system or loop itself, but you have only 2 turns of downtime. Not bad overall, and 30% damage reduction is probably going to be enough for the vast majority of stuff you are playing through because it's that extra bulk. It will most likely allow you to tank Hexazeon, and Gil's big hits under 50% is most likely going to be enough for you to sustain that. So she is still a strong functioning card overall. I feel like she is obviously like losing pace compared to other cards, but in terms of fire light coverage, especially for Shura 3, there are not too many other great cards available. Like I feel like Wedding Trailo is a superior choice, but not everyone has that particular orb skin. See the orb skin trends? Orb skins. But point of the matter is, I think Gung-Ho Lakshmi is still a strong fire card overall. And if you do play co-op, the fact that her skill boost plus is a super awakening is not that bad to miss out on because you probably have more than enough skill boosts anyways. So I do think Lakshmi is strong, but again, not as strong as the other orb skins. For Rudra, I feel like their best fit on Rosalind teams, especially for like Shura 3 where you need water coverage because there's not too many strong water cards. The new Zeus Giga Evo and Pop, I think, are the other big red water cards that I can think of off the top of my head. And Rudra is still pretty strong. Not as good as the Zeus. Zeus is basically like a better version of Rudra in almost every way, but Rudra is still solid in his own usage. He has potentially 2 skill boosts and super blind, or 4 skill boosts total. He has a single 10 combo with a large attack stat, so they can do reasonable damage. Not going to cap regularly, but reasonable damage. And they also have 4 enhanced fire combos. And for Rosalind teams, that translates into a huge amount of passive damage for the entire team. Every subsequent fire combo you do make will be doing so much more damage, and it also buffs her active skill's value. And then for the active skill itself on Rudra, you have 2 turns of Void Damage Void and 2 turns of half RCV. So you overwrite RCV debuffs, but the Void Damage Void is helpful because on Rosalind teams, VDP damage can sometimes be a little sketchy. It may not necessarily be. It depends all on your team composition, but maybe it is a little dicey. And with Rudra on the team, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself that you're going to smash through those Void spawns with relative ease. And the RCV buffing does help, say, like on Parvati, for instance, who debuffs your RCV. So as a whole, I think Rudra is still a nice card. It's a little situational, but he's still quite strong at what he does. And if you don't find any value in their base form, their weapon assist is unique. It gives you a single cross awakening and 2 team health and that same void damage void. So it is still a little bit of a situational awakening or weapon assist, but at the same time, it's unique. No cards give you Team HPs and a cross, if I'm not mistaken. That's just a rare combination. And just having a cross awakening is rare. And even if you're not playing a cross team, having one cross anywhere on a given team is meaningful because you can clear those sticky blind skyfalls much quicker. It's also another source of personal damage technically for the owning card. So it is a unique and interesting weapon assist. It can be situationally helpful. And if you do have a single Rudra, you may possibly find value in the weapon assist, especially if you don't actually utilize them as a sub. For Gung-Ho Reach or Dark Reach, their weapon assist is quite interesting. Maybe it's a little bit higher. It could be like a low A, a B ranking. And for the weapon assist, it gives you full bind immunity, skill boost, super time extend, so plus 1 second, and 2 enhanced dark orbs. So a relatively nice myriad of awakenings, and the active skill itself on a 25 turn cooldown gives you 5 turns of attribute and damage absorption cancellation. That's probably an excessively long time, but hey, more is more, so why not? That means if you need damage absorption cancellation, this is not a bad option by any means. At the same time, it does fall behind other damage absorption options because it doesn't give bulk. And we've kind of established that bulk tends to be one of the most important things to have at this point in time, because more health means more tanking, means more surviving. So Reach's Hat doesn't provide that, but at the same time, it's still pretty good at what it does. I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile monster exchanging for, unless you had no other card available to do this as a weapon assist. Maybe you can make the argument that it would be meaningful, because I think it's still a reasonably strong weapon, but it's not as, like, say, magical as Boar Helmet, which just gives so much health by comparison. Lucy and Valkyrie style weapon is a full cleric active skill, which means it clears all bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable. It also unlocks the board and gives you a rainbow board changer. So it's a nice solution if you need a full cleric active. It gives you a single skill boost, 2 enhanced dark orbs, and 20% resistive blind, jammer, and poison. It's not bad by any means. It's also not amazing. It's an orb skin, so it's kind of awkward, but I thought it might be worth touching upon the orb skin cards in case you just have so much money to burn and you want to buy everything. But in terms of orb skin buying priority, I think she's kind of the lowest. For Sari, she has a super poison resist, she has respectable personal damage, and a bit of passive damage, while also being a full cleric style active skill. It gives you a board unlock and creates 6 fire and wood orbs, and reduces unmatchable orbs and all awoken skill binds. So it doesn't clear regular binds, but it clears all other awoken binds and unmatchable. So a strong cleric active skill on a 7-turn cooldown. And I think she's actually quite strong, especially if you don't have any other option available. But in that same breath, Ami no Uzume, I'd say, is a stronger fire cleric overall, because she's a healing stick, which is valuable because you can heal up better. Sari has actually terrible RCV. She has potentially more skill boost, which is great for transforming. She has more passive damage, which is more. She has an RCV buff tied to her active skill, which does end up freeing active skill slots potentially, and she can take 8 latent slots, whereas Sari can only take 6. So if you have Ami no Uzume, who is a Pantheon card, it does eclipse Sari, but if you don't have Ami, maybe you can make the argument that Sari might be meaningful, but at the same time, Sari's weapon, I think, is actually quite strong. Sari's weapon is that same full cleric style active skill with a board unlock, well, full cleric minus the actual regular binds, but it also gives 2 team health and 2 team RCV. So if you don't know what to put on your team, this is never a bad choice, because more bulk and more healing is always a good thing to have. So I think it's actually a reasonable weapon. The only drawback is it may be difficult to find space on a given team because you have to counter so many things at this point in time, but it's still respectable when it charges up, especially for red and green teams. Rangan Leaf, in their base form, has potentially 6 skill boosts or an extra VDP. So they could be double 7 with a single VDP and 6 skill boosts, or double 7, double VDP, 4 skill boosts. So a nice set of awakenings, respectable personal damage. Their active skill gives you a 6-turn cooldown, and it gives you 6 turns of Dark Orb Skyfalls, while also reducing 5 turns of bind, reducing 5 turns of Awoken Bind and 5 turns of Unmatchable. At this exact point in time, Mystic Dimensions 2, or Dimension of the Mystics 2, the terribly hard dungeon right now, the hardest dungeon in the game currently, has no Awoken Binds or regular binds and only like 5 turns of Unmatchable at the most. So this individual here is going to be your best in-slot option for your dark teams because you clear the unmatchable, you have good skill boost, you have good personal damage, you have a bit of passive damage, and the active skill is giving you dark skyfalls. So you can loop this. You can have permanent dark skyfalls if you time it properly. And that's huge because you're less likely to be orb trolled. So like your Yuji Mahito teams or your Mikage teams have a much easier time playing through. So I feel like she's actually a strong card, best in slot option for MD2 at this point in time, and hence why she has a higher ranking. But in that same breath, it is not reliable enough for a full cleric. 5 turns of bind, awoken bind, five turns of awoken bind and unmatchable is not enough in most cases. She would work well as like a secondary backup cleric for like certain spawns, but you can't rely on her enough, which is definitely a bit of a drawback. Next is Knight, and Knight is actually one of the best cards to acquire, but only if you do not have Varroa or Varroa Kitty. You can still get Varroa Kitty just for today from the Hello Kitty Monster Exchange, but once today is over, she's gone forever, and Hello Kitty Varroa is the best option possible. And the reason why Knight is valuable is because their leader skill gives you 1.3 times egg drop rate. And egg drop rate bonus is huge because when you're token farming or event medal farming or whatever drop farming, you can play on the lowest difficulty possible and you can button your way through the dungeon. Buttoning your way through it means you play faster, you get the drops, and you also get to save stamina. So you're time efficient, you're stamina efficient, and it's mindless to do. He also has a dungeon boost through regular awakenings, and his active skill is actually a big button. So you can use his active skill to button, which means he can inherit a dungeon boost awakening through the awakenings, which means you have more dungeon boosts, and more dungeon boosts increases the egg drop rate of any rarity. You're not guaranteeing higher drop, or you're not guaranteeing higher rarity drops, you're just guaranteeing or giving yourself the chance of getting any drop occurring. So if you're button farming, say intermediate for like say Gung-Ho Collab, which is great for pie farming, this is a great way to do so. And I would strongly recommend you Monster Exchange for Knight if you don't own a Varroa and if you do not own a Varroa Kitty, because there are only 3 cards in the game that have this drop rate bonus effect. And if you do play solo mode, this card will be invaluable for yourself. But at the same time, like I said, if you have Varroa Kitty, or you only play in co-op in like swipe farm, button farm stuff, you will be better off just saving your trade fodder because there is redundancy if you already own Varroa or Varroa Kitty. But at the same time, 1 of 3 cards that does something game-changing is meaningful. For Omega, Omega in his dark form has wonderful amounts of personal damage. They have 32 times personal damage with 5 attack while below 50%. Absolutely amazing. Great farming card overall because large attack stat, their active skill is a 6-turn cooldown, creates a row of fire and a row of dark. Good chance the dark row can be leveraged to kill stuff because that's a high amount of personal damage multiplier. And the fire row is obviously going to explode. So you can stack rows and do lots of damage. And with double Omegas, you actually have quite a high attack multiplier. 324 times is actually quite pleasant. And all you have to do is be below 50%, which he does with his own active skill. So there are lots of ways you can possibly farm content with Omega. And basically the idea is you want to be fire attribute and just be below half health. So farming content quickly, Omega is a great choice if you have lots of fire orb generators available, but at the same time, it only truly shines in predictable dungeons. Like if if you need auto follow-up attack, if you have to manage your HP, juggle preemptives, it can be a bit of a nightmare, but for fast farming and quickly, Omega is still a classically good card. For Cien has a 7-turn cooldown, and her active skill gives you 7 turns of 30% health healed on a 7-turn cooldown for 7 turns, which means in theory you can health loop yourself. So any team that has a huge amount of health gets healed tremendous amounts. There was a time when this playstyle was kind of cool, like double Kuro Yuri loop was the thing. Now you only need 1 Cien, which does greatly free up team building, but at the same time there's nowhere truly great to utilize this type of setup. It is a cool concept, but it's not going to pan out, unfortunately, in terms of being truly viable. But it's worth mentioning that this does exist. And then finally, for the cards I want to highlight is Ghost Ring. And Ghost Ring is a new card like Paladin. And Ghost Ring is a 6-star card, which means you cannot monster exchange, you have to roll them, you can't even IAP them because it's not an orb skin. And Ghost Ring only comes with 7 awakenings, so it's my strong inclination to believe that they're going to get more awakenings in the future because they're quite strong as is. They have 4 skill boosts, which is nice. They also have double 10 combo, and their super awakening can give them a third 10 combo. So they will then be able to double damage cap with relative ease. 3 10 combo awakenings is 125 times personal damage multiplier. Is there any card who has a higher personal damage multiplier? I'm not sure, but this is one of the highest there is, which means their sub-attribute will even deal meaningful damage. Just be mindful of the fact that they actually have a terribly low attack stat, but 125 times personal damage multiplier. I said Omega was big with 32. This is 125 times. So huge damage output overall, and their active skill is a 2-turn cooldown that unlocks the board and creates 3 dark orbs at random. So for your mono dark teams, this is a huge boon. Huge damage stick, great way to generate orbs and prevent orb troll. The major drawbacks are, well, it only has 7 awakenings, so you are missing out a little bit. And if you already have Ina or you have Sakura, the need for Ghost Ring does go down for sure. Like, Sakura does hit hard. Ina doesn't, but at the same time, they give movement time buff in conjunction with their active skill, while they also generate orbs and unlock the board. So they give more utility by comparison. So Ghost Ring I still think is a strong card, and I definitely feel like when they gain more awakenings, they may shoot up, especially if they get like stat buffing, for instance, because let's say their attack stat gets improved. Even double 10 combo with a VDP is a great damage setup if you need VDP damage. So I feel like Ghost Ring is nice at this moment, but it's only going to get better with future reruns because they have to buff it. They have 2 extra awakening slots overall. So is it worth chasing now? I don't feel like it is, but if you do get one at this point in time, that is fantastic. And then for their weapon assist, it gives you negative RCV and negative HP, which means it's not going to be usable in outside of like predictable farming content, but it gives you 2 attack while above 50%, which translates into 2.25 times personal damage for the owning card. One of the highest ways to add personal damage to any given card, so it is great for like farming stuff, assuming you are able to have yourself being above half health. So obviously like Gung-Ho Belial teams will not want to use this, but if you have farming teams that like to be full health, like say Muzan, this weapon assist can be meaningful for that for sure. So in conclusion, the Gung-Ho collab has become a massive orb skin fiasco. Like, the best cards are orb skins, and it's just an unfortunate way to design a rare machine because it will give low motivation to roll, especially when they neglect the bottom rarity and make them so terrible. I would not be happy rolling any bottom rarity card. Like, there's just no place to truly utilize them in a meaningful manner. And at the same time, of the best cards, Knight is monster exchangeable, but if you have Varroa or Varroa Kitty, there's no need because he does something similar. Lakshmi is an orb skin, obviously Belial and Crusader are, so like there is some value it possibly to have by monster exchanging. But rolling in this event itself, I feel like, is an underwhelming affair. And like I said, we know this is going to come back on a regular basis, and maybe the next rerun will give you a bit more value or zest to hopefully entice you to roll more in the future. But remember, this will come back. Regardless of that being said, let me know what you think about this Gung-Ho collab in the comments down below. Do you think it's worth rolling in, or do you think it's just an IAP orb skin purchasing event and then just skip and ignore it completely? Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.